Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today in the studio, we have Sarah Viliamu. Sarah is the founder of the Self-Love Supply. With years of experience creating transformative events and programs, Sarah shares her professional expertise with lived experience to inspire confidence, self-love, and resilience. Sarah also works as a signed model, content creator, and speaker. After experiencing much adversity in her life from childhood homelessness and family violence to more recently recurrent miscarriages, Sarah turned to a path of discovery towards true self-love and inner healing to cultivate a life by design. Sarah is a proud mum of one, soon to be two, and she's joining me here today. So I cannot wait for this conversation. And with that, I'd love to welcome you, Sarah, into the studio and welcome onto the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and I'm feeling really good today, which is good. Every day is different whilst being quite pregnant at the moment. So yeah, today is good.
I know. And we were chatting off air just before that this is round 2 for you. So there's probably some things that feel familiar and then it's a whole different experience because this time you're not in lockdown.
Yeah.
You're living your life. You're probably maybe working a bit more and obviously you've got a 5-year-old as well, so it makes things a little more complex.
Yeah, it's definitely quite different. The fact that we're not in lockdown, I am excited about and looking forward to having a baby where people can come and meet the baby and everything like that. So definitely a very different experience and the pregnancy is quite different. So yeah.
Are you telling people what you're having?
I am, yes. So I've got my son who's just turned 5 and we're now having a girl. So
amazing.
Very exciting and he's excited to have a little sister. So
that's so cute. And does it feel different carrying a boy to a girl?
I've felt different in terms of feeling nauseous and food aversions and all different kinds of things. But, you know, you hear people that happens with a boy or a girl, so it just depends on the pregnancy. But it's definitely been very different for me. So,
that's so exciting. Yeah. I am, just over the moon for you. And I can't wait to hear more about your journey to getting to this point in our conversation today. Let's kick things off with some nice, easy questions. I want to know, where do you live? What does an average day look like? And what do you do for fun?
Sure. So I'm a Melbourne girly, always have been. Love to travel, but Melbourne's home. So I'm out near the Yarra Valley Way. Very beautiful out there. And what do I do?
Yeah, what does an average day look like for you? What does an average day?
Every single day is very different in my world, but I love it that way. And I definitely have created that by design. So in my past life, I was working in corporate, full-time, traveling, very business orientated, and now my life could look so different, from going to a pregnancy scan the other day to going to parent-teacher interviews to speaking in front of hundreds of women, making content for Instagram or TikTok. So it really does have such a big variable depending on the day and what I need to get done, but I love the differences.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, having been a corporate girly for a number of years and then stepping into a life that was very much by design. I love the way you describe it that way, because I think, well, for me anyway, I was living this life for so many years that was seemingly just kind of happening all around me. And I was stepping one foot in front of the other, but I really had no autonomy, no direction. It was kind of just like ticking the boxes. And now I actually get to choose. I get to really decide and be the creator of where I want to go. And sometimes that can be really overwhelming, because I think that, there's so much possibility and there's so much choice. And sometimes I even lately I've been experiencing a little bit of not paralysis, but just a little fear around, well, where do I go next? But at the same time, having that flexibility around time, having that freedom, that is just something that I don't think I could ever go back now.
Yes, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Sarah, I've asked you to bring in a photo today.
Yes.
Now, this photo is from a time in your life where you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version of yourself to the outside world, but the reality was you were really struggling on the inside. So could you please describe for our audience, we have the photo here, which is wonderful. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for those who are watching the video right now, but for those who are listening, could you please describe the photo that we're looking at and then tell us what was going on for you at that time in your life?
Yeah. So I decided to go with a more recent one. I and we'll get more into conversation about it, but I've definitely had a life of difference and a life of adversity, and lots of work that I've done on myself to get to a place of self-love and confidence. So I decided to go with a more recent one, which was actually from last year. And in the photo, I'm smiling, I've got my hair and makeup done. I've got a white top on that says Sagittarius, but I'm not a Sagittarius.
What are you?
So I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
The reason I've got that top on is because this is from a photo shoot where I was doing modeling.
Yes.
So I was on set taking the photos. This photo would be one that they would use for their website or social media. And I was working. I was doing my thing, working as a model. But what people didn't know was I was actually miscarrying in the photo on this day.
God.
Yeah. And so I made the decision, I was aware that my baby's heart had stopped beating, and I was waiting for the call about having a surgery. So I made the decision to continue going to work that week as a model, doing full day photo shoots, 8-9 hours, changing clothes, smiling, laughing, doing happy video content, because for me, number one, we've still got to make an income and we've got to pay the bills. But for me, it was slightly a bit of a distraction to what my reality was, which was really heartbreaking. So, yeah, that's what was happening at that time. And after having that miscarriage, it really did send me down a path of heartbreak, a lot of depressive thoughts, really, really struggling to find my way out of that. And it really, in the end, took about a year to heal from what I was experiencing. And just when I started to feel myself getting better, we had another miscarriage. So it was such a difficult year for us, one that I'd never wish anyone to experience those feelings. And yeah, it took a lot of time. But the reason I wanted to talk about this today and share this was because even as someone who had done so much inner healing and work, we can always be thrown off track. We don't know what life has in store for us. But I do truly believe that because of the work that I'd spent years doing, healing myself, learning tools and techniques on how to regulate my emotions and heal, that allowed the healing process to potentially be faster than what it could have been.
It's so true, isn't it? Firstly, I just want to say I'm so sorry that you did lose those babies and have to go through that experience. You touched on something that I think is so important to echo, in that you can be doing the work and you can have come a really long way on your self-healing journey, but that doesn't mean that you get to bypass life's challenges and life's lessons and difficulties. But it's the pace in which you move through it, rather than being completely crippled by it, frozen by it. There still will be a period of the depressive thoughts, the pain, the heartache, because it's almost, we have to feel those feelings to move through them. But you can get through it slightly quicker maybe than if you didn't have those tools.
Yes, yeah.
So can I ask, did you have any difficulty conceiving Levi?
No, which was also quite a shock in the longer time that it took us to conceive that second pregnancy, and then for us to miscarry and not really have any answers around it. I think that's the hardest thing with miscarriage, is because sometimes there are no answers. That starts to make you ramble with thoughts of why, what did I do, what could I have done better, when sometimes the answer is simply it's just because. But as human beings, we like to find reason behind things. So yeah, that was really difficult for us. And then when we had the other miscarriage, that just made those feelings tenfold. So it was a really, really difficult period. And there was times where even I, as the person who was still had to show up, because I still had to do work and everything like that.
And be a mother.
And be a mum, yes. There was times where I really couldn't see the light of how to move forward and how we were going to get through this. But I did turn back to the work that I knew and the simplest things of gratitude and journaling and just doing those basic things. But it took me months and months to really come out of that and just to get started on that journey again.
And I'm wondering, was there a sense of, I can't put my finger on it because I haven't experienced it myself. So let me just kind of talk this out loud and maybe you can guide me. Being that you already had a child, was there a sense of I shouldn't be feeling this sad because some people don't get to have any miscarrying on your second? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's a very confusing experience. So there's every single type of thought that you could possibly think. The thoughts that come through are, am I meant to have more children? Is this because of my health, or is there what's wrong with me? You just come up with so many thoughts, and when you can't get the answers, that just makes you spiral even more. So I think I was able to connect with Pink Elephants, which is a great support for anyone that needs that out there, who support people who go through miscarriage. And just knowing that you aren't alone in the experience, that makes you feel more alone than you ever have in your life, especially when it can be at a stage where no one knows that you're pregnant. So sometimes the first news that you're telling people when you're meant to be telling them that you're excited and having a baby, it's that you've lost one. And that's a really difficult conversation to decide whether you actually even want to have that conversation or not. But for me, I decided it was really important to share that. And so I actually did share that online, which got a lot of attention all over the world. And I'm grateful for that because it did help a lot of people feel less alone in a time where you feel like no one understands or no one can feel what you're feeling.
And I think it is one of those experiences. I lost a baby in very early stages when I was married with my ex-husband. And I remember too as well, for me, it was the physical toll on my body as well as the emotional one. And the, going through the process of having to get everything swept and cleaned and all that kind of stuff, which is really uncomfortable and really exposing as well, and feeling like I was a failure in that moment. Why do you think it is that people don't talk about miscarriage?
I think there's been such a taboo around it for such a long time. And even though the conversation is getting more open and more people are feeling comfortable too, I think it's because sometimes there is no answers. And so we look to ourselves as being to blame when that's absolutely not the case. And also the whole thing around, don't tell anyone that you're pregnant until this certain point in time makes people think that I don't know whether to say the value of it or their worthiness to feel a certain way isn't warranted. That's the belief, when that couldn't be more far from the truth, because the moment you find out that you're pregnant, you start thinking and you start planning and you start imagining and you start connecting. And so regardless of where you are or how far along you are pregnant, a loss is a loss, and that heartache and that pain is just terrible. So
it's so true, isn't it? And that's what I've found in my own personal experience. Whenever I've experienced loss or grief, there's the initial grieving of the loss, but then it's also the sadness of the future that will no longer be. Like, I know that when I separated from my ex-husband, it was a lot of grief around the future that would never come to life. And so again, and with that, like you said, the minute you find out, you start to imagine a life with your baby.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
Can I ask, how did this impact your relationship with your partner? Did it draw you guys together, or was there a period where perhaps it created more friction?
I would say we have a very strong partnership. So I've been with my husband for nearly 13 years now. So we were teenage lovers. So we've been together a very long time. We've grown up together. And if anything, our relationship and now our marriage has just continued to get stronger. And now we're at the strongest point that we ever have been. I would say there were times throughout that year where we'd experienced the 2 miscarriages where I was fading away, so much so that my husband could only offer me so much support, and it came to the point where it had to be me to make that decision to get out of bed, to go for a walk, just to do the simplest things to try and heal, because there was only so much that he could hold me up, and the rest had to be done by me. So I wouldn't say that it pulled us apart, but I could see him looking at me thinking, how else can I possibly help her and make her feel better? So he was always, I'm very grateful, like he was very supportive and never ever made me feel like anything was my fault, or never made me feel like my feelings weren't warranted. So he heard me and he allowed me to feel what I needed to feel. But there were times where, and sometimes you might need that. You need someone to come in and say, it's time to hop out of bed and go outside.
Brush your hair.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about his support network? Do you think that he had people he could talk to? Because I think for men as well, there's this added complexity of they don't have the physical experience.
Yeah, he found it very difficult, and a couple of people, he had some not so great experiences where people either just didn't respond or didn't show much care to that with him sharing that news. So he did keep it quite personal. We're quite different in that aspect, where I'm very vocal with my experiences. But I did find from me choosing to share online, it wasn't necessarily about me getting sympathy or anything like that. But for me being such an open, authentic person, this is a part of my journey that I don't need to hide from anyone. And so I will share this. And then the fact that other people were able to feel helped and supported by that helped me heal as well.
Absolutely. I can really relate to that in my recovery story and my journey around talking openly about sobriety, because it's in sharing our stories that people find identification, and in that feeling it's that sense of I'm no longer alone, which helps both people, both parties. It's, you know, the person that's sharing as well as the person that's receiving, and being able to be seen in their own stuff even though they may feel very alone. And can I ask about your friends at that time? For somebody who's listening today who maybe has a friend who has gone through a miscarriage recently, or, you know, maybe that's to come, what did you need at that time?
I was very grateful for the support that my friendships offered. So really just listening to me, and without any judgment, without any suggestions, without any... Sometimes the words that we use cannot be helpful. So sometimes just saying nothing and just being a listening ear and bringing around a hot meal or things like that really made my day and helped me so much. So yeah, just being cautious of the words that we are using and avoiding saying things like you can try again and all these kind of comments. As much as it can be well meant, it's not very helpful. So
I agree. And I think that's the same actually for people on an infertility journey. You know, when you're trying that for a year of my life, that was also my experience. And when people say things like, just stop trying, or, you know, like it's... Yeah, sometimes
it's not helpful.
Yeah, just better to say nothing, but to be there physically, have that presence.
Yes.
Just come over on a Friday night, put on a movie, distract.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Sarah, I want to take it back now, if possible. You've got a big story.
Yes, it's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride. Can we go back to your childhood?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you remember from that time?
I had quite a different childhood perhaps to most people out there. As a child, life looked very different for me for some different reasons, and I can explain that. I had an upbringing where my mum always wanted the absolute best for me, and so part of that was to send me to a private girls' school, and did everything she possibly could to pay for me to go there. And so whilst I was attending this school, I had this world and this exposure to people who had wealth, who had parents who were doing, you know, very interesting jobs, very highly educated jobs and things like that. But I also at the same time lived in a home that was on the lower socioeconomic grade and had addiction in the home, family violence in the home. So it was quite a unique experience where every single day I would experience quite different worlds and have to manage that and be around that. And so I think from a young age, I learnt to have a bit of a facade around who I was and who I would show up as and behind the smile, as you say. And that was from, as young as 5, 6 years old. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Did that environment stay the same throughout your entire childhood?
It did for a fair amount of time. So up until grade 4, my family lost the family homes. So they got repossessed because there was a time where my grandma had gotten unwell. We lived on a property where there were 2 houses on the property. So my grandparents lived next door, which that was a cool experience because I'd just pop in to see them or get an ice cream. So that was nice. That's a good memory. But yeah, so she became unwell. My mum had to stop working and to care for her. And that meant we just didn't have the funds to pay for the homes. So there was a bunch of other reasons for that. But the family homes got repossessed. So the sheriffs came. And I remember it hadn't been so long before that because we had a 2-bedroom unit that we were living in. And I've got a younger brother. And I'd become, I was around about 9 and my parents said, it's time for your own room now. So they actually built half of the kitchen and put a wall up so I could have my own bedroom.
Oh, wow.
And I got to paint it pink and it was hot pink and all of this. So it hadn't been very long that I'd got my new special room. And then the sheriffs came and locked up our house and we weren't allowed back into our house. So we were homeless for a period of time when I was that age.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was really difficult.
What did that look like for somebody who doesn't understand?
Yeah, so for us, it meant we weren't able to get any housing from the government for a period of time. So my dad actually went to a neighbour and who had a very, very old caravan that was, falling apart, bought it for about $50.
Oh my God.
And we slept in that caravan, which was on the property. So that was the weird thing about how repossession works and that. But it was on the property.
So you could see your house boarded up.
Yes, but you're not allowed in it. They
Oh.
chained it up. Yeah. So that was for that period of time and we slept in the caravan. And
you're still going to school at this time?
Still going to school. Yeah.
Did anyone know?
No, not from my friends or anything like that. And at that time, because my grandma was being cared for my mum, she got put into like a nursing home. So yeah, we stayed there and we were essentially homeless, but we had shelter.
Yes.
And I would call it shelter because it wasn't like one of those luxurious caravans that you see today. No.
It wasn't a Winnebago.
No. So, but it was shelter. And I guess that did teach me to be grateful from a very young age as well, to be grateful for just the simplest things in life. And from there, we went on to eventually get council housing and living there for a period of time before my parents were able to get their own place. But yeah, all throughout that time, there was lots of experience with family violence and abuse.
Was that between your parents?
It was between other family as well.
Yeah.
So, and also directly to me as a child. So, yeah, that's something that I've had to go on the journey of understanding and
Of course. And did you find that being exposed to family violence and addiction throughout your childhood, did that impact your ability to form healthy relationships as you started to move into your teen years and then adulthood?
Yeah, 100%.
What did that look like?
That looked like right up until about 12 or 13 years, I was people pleaser, try and make everyone happy, diffuse any situation.
Yeah,
I could tell when, someone had come home drunk and
you get really alert,
you
right?
get
You're
alert.
high alert, hyper vigilant.
Yeah, you know what to say and what not to say, how to avoid conflict, all those kinds of things. Got familiar with, having to call the police or whatever it might be for help. And yeah, it built a lot of pain within me that really started to show when I was about 15. And on reflection, I have a lot of empathy for that teenage Sarah, because a lot of the time there was talk about, she's off the rails or naughty or whatever. But she was just acting out because she'd lived a life where she was so trapped that when she was 15 and becoming a woman, she decided to act out and get.
Can you tell me more? What did the acting out look like?
Yeah, well, I guess doing dangerous things, getting in cars with older people, using substances to avoid reality from a very young age.
When did you start drinking?
14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then adding on to all the party things that we do and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I reflect on that time where for me it really was to escape reality. I didn't want to think about how I was feeling. I didn't know how to process the abuse that I'd experienced. And so that's what I did. And that's how I managed to get through those years until I came to the point where I was able to start reflecting on that and going on my own self-discovery healing journey.
Yeah. I know for me, part of living in an alcoholic home growing up and that uncertainty, it led me to have this real need to control everything in my life, and that also really played out in my food.
Yeah.
Did you have any sort of experience like
that? Not necessarily food, but yeah, definitely controlling everything that I could. So the funny thing was, even though I was drinking, partying, doing all of that kind of stuff, I worked from a very young age, younger than what the legal age actually is in Victoria, but I got a job, I worked, I've always had a job, always been earning my own money. So one, I guess, positive that you can see from it is that from going through those experiences from such a young age, yes, I did have that want to control my circumstance, but to be able to control it, to be able to always take care of myself. And so that built a lot of, I guess, hyper independent ability within myself, even making sure that I could work to pay for my own alcohol or work to pay for my own clothes, and even buying a house at quite a young age. So,
wow.
Yeah.
When did you start modelling?
So that was a bit more down the track. So I definitely did struggle with body image growing up. I think so many of us did in the era of, you know,
Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton.
Yeah, all of the things, the model competitions that you would see, America's Next Top Model.
Yes.
I'd watch all of that, all the magazines. I remember I'd cut them out and stick them and collage them and all these kinds of things. So body image was a big struggle for me. I went through a massive journey of extreme weight loss and doing anything I possibly could to not look how I looked, because I didn't think that I was beautiful and I thought I needed to look a certain way to fit society standards and to become a model. It was something that I'd always wanted to do. Even as a child, I'd entered some competitions in the shopping centres where they'd come around and do probably the Girlfriend magazine or whatever it is. And but I'd never had any success with getting signed or anything like that. And I went and entered a competition one day where it was open to all sizes, didn't matter who you were, what size you were, what your background was. And that was a real eye-opening experience, because I'd just never seen anything like that. To see plus-size models or any different type of person in the room walking the catwalk, strutting their stuff, was very empowering. So from that day, it really opened that path of discovery for me to think, hang on a minute, maybe I don't need to change. Maybe society has an issue here. And when I really started to work on the body image stuff, that's where all the other inner healing came from. So for me, it was that journey with body image and starting to get comfortable with my body and put myself out there, even on social media, and get a lot of traction with that. And so that's where the modelling began. So I would have been about 22 when I started doing that, putting myself out on social media and starting connecting with brands that way. So it wasn't actually until more recently that I was signed with an agency, but I just did my own freelance thing and was quite successful. One of my earliest shoots was with Lululemon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so do you think that modelling has been an affirmative experience, or is it something that potentially could still play with this journey around body image and, you know, self-esteem? Because there, I mean, for better or worse, there's a perception based around your looks.
Yes, for sure. I think the world is improving with the diversity that we see. However, it's got a very, very long way to go. So for me, because I've been able to work on my own body image and feel comfortable in my skin, and I know that I represent so many women out there, whether that be because of what size I am, the fact that I am a mother, the fact that I'm mixed race and I have a Polynesian background. So in so many factors, women are able to relate to me. And so I feel very proud and privileged that when I'm in a campaign and when I'm modeling, women get to see themselves represented, and that's not what I got to see growing up. And so for me, having a very strong belief in who I am and showing up as my authentic self, I think that can be a great breakthrough in the modeling world, but we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, I love that you've touched on authenticity there as being this thing that you can hold on to almost like a guiding star, because the world is so complex and there are so many different messages. And the thing that still blows my mind to this day is, you know, some of the most textbook beautiful people, like let's just say, you know, a Victoria's Secret angel, they have the same negative thoughts, the same loud inner critic, sometimes way, way worse. So, you know, and I know in my own journey with body image, you know, I've been able to get myself to a point that, you know, has been I'm using air quotes here, the goal. And then I get there and I'm like, well, this didn't fix it. So it's
the
really
goal changes.
Exactly right. You move the goalpost. And so it's really about that inner work, that inner healing to come to a place of complete self-acceptance and self-love. And that for me has been the real journey. So when you talk about your own journey towards this place of self-acceptance and self-love, what do you mean by doing the work?
Yeah. It's a combination of many different tools and techniques that I've learned along the way. For me, it started off with simple gratitude. And as I said, I've been able to do it from a young age, but consciously doing gratitude practice has been probably the biggest saving grace in my life, because when we can be grateful for the simplest things in our life, other things like how my hair looks today doesn't really matter that much. The fact that I was able to have breakfast, I've got a house that I can live in. And for me, as someone who's experienced homelessness, just having those basic human necessities is enough to be grateful that what we worry about on an everyday basis just doesn't seem so much to worry about anymore. So gratitude is probably one of the biggest things for me.
How do you do that on a daily basis these days? What does it look like?
For me, I have this book that I read. You can get them from Kmart or Big W or, you know, there's so many things out there, but it's just reading a simple passage every single morning, which could be about nature or whatever it might be, just to remind you. It literally takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's not something that has to be a 3-hour meditation or anything like that.
A 10-part morning routine.
No, it doesn't have to. And I do a lot of mirror work. So mirror work, it sounds like this whole job or something, but it's not. I literally could be brushing my teeth, looking in the mirror, looking at myself and just saying to myself, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for what I have. That's it. It can be as simple as that. So the mirror work, the reading the affirmations, doing journaling when I have a few moments in the morning, which is something my son has seen me do since he was a baby. So he's very used to me sitting there having my coffee and my breakfast, and he knows mummy's writing in her book. He doesn't know what I'm writing really, but it's something that he gets to see modeled from me as well, which I'm very proud of.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And these actions that you take, you think that that's what's contributed to this confidence that you have been able to build within?
Yeah, 1000%. I truly believe that it doesn't have to be so complicated, and we all have different journeys. And the reality is there's no one timeline for how long it will take you to achieve a lot of confidence or a lot of self-belief. There's no answer to how long it will take because everyone's journey is so different. But what I can guarantee and say with full conviction is that if you consciously choose to do the simplest tasks like gratitude, journaling, mirror work, they're so basic, they're so simple, but they will change the trajectory of your life because without that conscious awareness of how you're feeling each day, you just end up in a robot mode essentially. So it allows you to really awaken to yourself and think, how am I feeling? How do I want to feel? And what do I want to put out there into the world today?
So important. You know, you've just reminded me, I was having this conversation with my best friend just a little while ago. We were overseas together. She lives in Hamburg and we were in Poland together actually. And we were having this conversation around ego versus confidence. Because she made some sort of comment about my ego and I took offense to it. I was like, Georgia, that's not very nice. Like I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself over the last 5-6 years to make sure that I'm humble and that I don't allow this ego, this false bravado because that all comes from fear and lack of self-esteem, right? I said, and she's like, well, no, that's not what I mean. And we unpacked it more and more and more. And mind you, she's been living in Germany for the last 15 years or so. And so she actually does sometimes with English get a little bit muddled, which is crazy because we grew up together. Anyhow, we unpacked it. We had this robust conversation. And in the end, she's like, no. What I mean is you're really confident. And I said, absolutely. And that's something that I've worked on every single day. And I think she sees that just from showing up online and, you know, doing things like a podcast. Absolutely. But I didn't wake up this way. I've always been outgoing, but the confidence has been a journey. And it's still something that isn't necessarily there at 100% every single day. But what do you think the difference between, or what do you think some of the misconceptions are around a confident person?
Yeah. They're up themselves, they're a know-it-all, you know, there's all these different things. But now that I've been on this journey for quite a period of time, people who I see really putting themselves out there who I may have once thought that they were arrogant or I may have once thought those things. What I realize now was it's never about anyone else. It's always about you, actually.
So true.
So whatever you are thinking about people who are out there in your life who you might think, oh, they've got a big ego, they're pretty arrogant. That's always just a reflection on yourself.
The unhealed parts, right?
Yeah.
So true. I've noticed that a lot lately. I go through these waves with social media. And I was just thinking to myself recently this morning, I was like, I really want to just take a step back because I feel like I've gotten on the wrong side of Instagram all of a sudden, and every single post that is being fed to me is somebody either telling me how much money they're making or how many clients they're working with. And I'm like, I just don't want this down my throat right now. It's giving me an ick. And then I'm like, this is really interesting. Why am I having that reaction? You know, why isn't this just water off a duck's back? Why am I not even noticing it? It's having an impact on me for some reason. And so it's, you know, it's always just that little, it's like the universe just going, oh, yes, you might want to explore this.
Yeah,
and that's
for sure.
okay.
And that's something that I actually suggest to people when they're going on that journey of working on their body image and their body confidence is it's okay for a period of time if you need to shut down your social media or if you need to unfollow certain people who bring out those feelings of comparison within you. That's okay for a period of time, because I tell you what, I went through that same thing where I would compare myself. I would constantly leave myself feeling negative about my body when I was looking at these other people. And so for a period of time, I stopped following them. I only followed accounts that made me feel positive and good. But now that I'm much further down the track, I could look at anyone's Instagram page and I don't for 1 second compare them against my body because I'm past that now. So if you need to use that as a tool to help you whilst you're working through your feelings and, you know, your journey to a better body image or whatever it might be, then that's okay as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Taking that power back a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, what inspired you then to move from your own personal journey through confidence, self-love, into sharing this with the world and more specifically running events?
Yeah. I love events and I've always been the one to create the events. My house was the party house when I was going through those teen years.
Love it.
Thanks, Mum. Yeah, so I've always loved events, and even through my corporate career, I was the one organising our corporate awards nights and special events and tenure dinners and all those sorts of things. So I've had that in my past of something that's a passion for me. When I started to share more online with my body image journey and starting modelling and my self-love journey and having a lot of people resonate and having a lot of questions come my way of how I'm doing this, how I feel confident to put myself out there in a bikini, all these types of things. And I was answering questions individually again and again and again and again. And some of the posts were getting over 1 million views and we're getting lots of traction. And I thought to myself, how can I just get you all in one room, because I'm talking to you individually, and we can go on this journey together. And so that's really where the Self-Love Supply was born, with this idea. I was just a couple months postpartum with my son. So I'd had him, we were in lockdown. And I guess I was starting to think of, what do I want from here on out, which is pretty common for once we have kids. That kind of thought of what we want our life to look like changes. And yeah, so I came up with the idea. I threw together an event. It sold out. I had some guest speakers. We did some breath work, all different types of things. And really the idea with the Self-Love Supply was to be that bridge where there's lots of things out there where they're quite in depth when it comes to inner healing work. There's some deep retreats that you can do and all these kinds of things. And I also went to Business Chicks, if we know that. Yeah, we love Business Chicks. I remember going to that and just thinking, this is incredible. How could I do this in a bit of a, not necessarily about business, but just to bring women more confidence in general and more self-love. So yeah, that's where the idea came from. And we've just been going since then. And it's been 4.5 years now of events and all different kinds of events, working with all different businesses and just supporting hundreds of women across the country to find more self-love and to give them that permission slip, not that you ever need it, but to give them that permission slip to say yes to themselves and do things that fill their cup and teach them tools and techniques that could work for them.
Absolutely. And another thing I love about events is, you can be listening to the podcasts and reading the books and even doing the gratitudes and the affirmations, but there's something about carving out a little time to go to a space where you're in community with other like-minded people that is so, so potent.
Yeah.
Because I'm so guilty of doing the work on a daily basis, but not carving out the time to actually go and do these events that can have sometimes quite it's almost like the daily practices are my maintenance, but then if I want to get that deep inner, that expansive, like fill my cup feeling, then it's going to these types of events.
Yes.
Now, this is how you and I actually came into each other's sphere, because I'm going to be joining you at the Empowered Her event in Victoria. It's on the Mornington Peninsula in September.
Yes.
I'm so excited for this. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
What can people expect from the Empowered Her event?
Yeah. So we ran Empowered Her last year, which we did up in the Gold Coast, and it was a great success. And that was quite a different event. This year for Empowered Her, we are going to be at the hot springs on the peninsula.
Heaven.
Bliss. Love it there. So, of course, as a part of your experience, you will get to use the hot springs. So that's how we're going to finish the day.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah, but we've got lots of exciting things planned. So we've got Expansive Space who are coming to run some mindset workshops, delicious food. We're going to have you on the panel, which we're very excited about, to have some really conscious conversations and hopefully help empower women to go away feeling excited for life. And so it's a full day event on the 20th of September.
Amazing.
And yeah, looking forward to it.
And we were chatting about maybe for our listeners today, getting a special code.
We will give you a special code. So we'll give that over to you and you can pop that in the notes and everything.
Amazing. I was like, before we started recording, I was like, Sarah, let's do a code.
We love a code.
We love a code. And why not? I think that if this is something that you were thinking about, that you really wanted to, even push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, then this is a nice little incentive.
Yeah, and that's really what it's all about, is that if you've never been to a retreat or you've never been to a confidence workshop, or you're like, what is a confidence workshop? This is really, the Self-Love Supply is designed to be that gateway for you to come in and to experience, but without feeling overwhelmed or without feeling out of your depth or anything. Yeah.
Totally. And just, like you said before, the permission slip to take a little time out of the busyness of your daily life to give back to yourself, to fill up your own cup. So, and let's all hang out in the hot springs. I'm so excited.
If anything, it's a girls' day out. Like, why wouldn't you? You know,
100%,
so
without a doubt.
Yeah, but we've planned a pretty special day. So.
I can't wait. Well, I'll pop the code once you do your magic in the
Yes.
back end. I'll pop that in the show notes and you guys can check that out so that you can come along and join us there. Sarah, I have absolutely loved chatting to you today, and I'm just really, I have a lot of admiration for the work that you do and what you're giving back to the world. We have a closing tradition on the show, and it is a question that I ask all of my guests, which really helps to highlight how you have stepped out from behind the smile and how you are living your life today. So could you please share with our listeners, what are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, authentic and free?
So one of them would be the home that I keep for my family. And this might be quite a unique one, but one of them, is being that I'm very particular around the environment that I'm raising my child in and what I will and won't allow my child to be around. And so that's meant putting up a lot of boundaries with my family around who can see him or be around my home. And so I won't have substance in the home. And I know that sounds maybe very simple, but as someone who's grown up around that, that is a very strong one in my home.
That's incredible. Yeah. That is so, like, I'm feeling a little bit emotional about that because I too know what it's like to grow up as a child in an environment where there's substances around and the confusion and the dysregulation that causes a little person's nervous system. So I'm really just, again, like, I just love that you're doing that and that he can grow up in a safe environment.
Yeah. So that's a big one for sure. And other ones would be always doing things that, make me feel good within myself. So if something doesn't align with me, I will say no. Even if the money's good, because sometimes in my world of content creation and modeling, there's opportunities that come up that, they sound good in my bank account, but I will turn them down. If they don't align with who I am, if they don't align with my values and my morals, I am strong enough in myself now to say thanks, but no thanks.
And why is that important for you?
It's important for me because whilst other people may not be aware that, that's against my values, or they might just not even realise me working with a brand about a certain topic, they might just not even think about it. I'll know. And so my relationship with myself is the most important thing.
And the honesty with yourself, right? Yeah. Yes, it's that self-honesty, because you might be great at not lying outwardly, but it's the lies that we tell ourselves that can actually be the most insidious, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So good.
And a third one I would say is to have a lot of fun. So simple, but it's a big theme within my life. If you follow me along, I'll always be doing something, whether it's dinner with the girls or recently went to Bali with my family. I'm a big believer of money comes and money goes as well. So as long as we have our needs met, there's always a bit of room for fun, or as my son would love, time zones. So I'm sorry. That's not necessarily my fun, but I see him light up. So we're there a lot.
I love that. I am actually a massive fan of time zones.
Yeah.
So props
it's
there.
Stimulating now that I'm older, which is a weird thing, but anyway.
For sure. I totally get that. That's really, really beautiful. I love those 3, and definitely things that I resonate with as well. So thank you so much for sharing those. Sarah, if people want to track you down, follow you on social media, where should they go?
Yes, so mainly on Instagram and TikTok girly now. So Sarah Viliamu, you can find me there. And the Self-Love Supply, we're on all the socials and everything. So
incredible.
That's where we are.
Amazing. I'll make sure I pop all of that information in the episode show notes. We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one needs suffer in silence. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.